Vishvamitra, having thus safely handed back to Dasarath at Mithila the princes entrusted to him in Ayodhya, and after attending the wedding celebrations, took leave of the two kings and went to the Himalaya mountains. King Dasarath returned to Ayodhya, accompanied by his retinue. On the way there were bad omens, and anxious Dasarath asked Vasishta what they foretold. Vasishta replied that there was no need to be alarmed, for though the birds in the air indicated approaching trouble, the animals on the land promised a happy consummation. As Dasarath and Vasishta were thus conversing, there broke out a great storm. Trees were uprooted, the earth quaked, and clouds of dust went up and hid the sun, and there was an all-enveloping darkness. Everyone was terror-struck. Soon they knew the reason for the strange phenomenon. There stood before them the awe-inspiring figure, Parashuram, the sworn enemy of warriors, with a bow on one shoulder and a battle-axe on the other, and with an arrow shining like lightning in his hand. Terrible in appearance, with his matted locks gathered overhead, he looked like Lord Shiva exulting in the destruction of the demon Tripur. His face emitted flame-like radiance. The son of sage Jamadagni struck terror among the Kshatriyas or warriors, many generations of whom he had annihilated. Wherever he went, he was preceded by storm and earthquake, and the Kshatriya race trembled in fear. The Brahmins in Dasarath's retinue said to one another, "Because his father was killed by a king, Parashuram took a vow to destroy the warrior race. We dare to hope that his vengeful wrath had been quenched in the blood of the innumerable kings he has slain. Has he again started his cruel campaign?" However, they honored him with the customary offering of water. After receiving it, Parashuram addressed himself to Ram. "Son of Dasarath, I have heard of your prowess. I was somewhat surprised to learn that you strung the bow in King Janak's court, and that you drew the string till the bow broke. Here is my bow, equal in all respects to the one that you broke. This is the bow of Lord Vishnu, which was entrusted to my father. If you are able to string this bow, you will be worthy of my battle." Dasarath was perturbed at this turn of events, and he begged that his son Ram should be spared the trial. He said to Parashuram, "You are a Brahmin. We have heard that, satiated with your revenge, you have gone back to penance, as becomes your order, in pursuance of your plighted word to Indra, after giving away the earth you had conquered to Kashyap. Is it proper that you should break your vow and seek to injure a prince of tender years, who has done you no wrong and who is dearer to us than life?" Parashuram heard him unmoved, without so much as looking at him, and addressed himself solely to Ram as though the others did not exist. He said, "Vishvakam originally made two exactly similar bows. One of them was given to Lord Shiva, and the other to Lord Vishnu. This is the one given to Vishnu. What you have strung and bent to breaking point was Shiva's bow. See if you can string this bow of Lord Vishnu, and if you do, it will be proof of your skill and strength, and I will then honor you by fighting with you." Parashuram spoke in a loud and arrogant tone. To him Ram replied in courteous manner, yet in firm tones, "Son of Jamadagni, you have been vengeful because your father was killed by a king. I do not blame you for that, but you cannot put me down, as you have humbled others. Please give me your bow." So saying, he took the bow and arrow from Parashuram. He strung the bow, and setting the arrow to it, drew the string. Addressing Parashuram, he said with a smile, This mighty Vaishnava arrow placed on the string cannot be put back idly. It must destroy something. Tell me, shall it destroy your powers of locomotion? Or would you rather that it consume the fruits of your austerities? As the son of Dasarath strung the bow of Lord Vishnu, the glory on Parashuram's face faded, and he stood no longer the warlike conqueror, but a self-subdued sage. For the purpose of Parashuram, who was an incarnation of Lord Vishnu, was over. Parashuram said mildly to the Prince of Ayodhya, I realize who you are. I am not sorry that you have quenched my arrogance. Let all my austerities go to you. But because of my promise to Kashyap, I cannot remain in his domains, and have therefore to hurry back to the Mahindra mountains before the sun sets. Let me use my power of locomotion for this single thing. Subject to this, let the arrow which you have set to the bow consume all my power earned through austerities. So saying, Parashuram reverently circumambulated round the prince and departed. Ayodhya's citizens were overjoyed to hear that Dasarath and the royal princes were returning to the capital. The city was festive with flowers and shone like the heavenly planets. Ram and Sita lived happily in Ayodhya for 12 years. Ram had surrendered his heart to Sita. Their hearts communed even without speech. Sita, rejoicing in Ram's love, shone like the goddess Lakshmi, mother of prosperity. Dasarath loved all his 4 sons, and yet he had a special affection for Ram, and the latter deserved it by his royal qualities and adherence to righteousness. Ram's graceful frame and virile beauty, his strength, his courage, the purity of his heart, his perfect life, his compassion, sweetness of speech, his serenity, his deep wisdom, and his statesmanship were admired by the people and made them eagerly look forward to his becoming king. And Dasarath knew and rejoiced in this expectation. Hence, considering his old age, he wished to crown Ram as regent or acting king, and entrust him with the de facto rule of the kingdom. Informing his ministers of his desire, he convened an assembly. Rishis and wise men, leaders of the city, the kings from neighboring lands attended. When all were seated, each in his appropriate place, Dasarath rose and addressed them. His deep manly voice, like the sound of a trumpet or the roar of rain-bearing clouds, filled the great hall. A royal radiance shone from his face. His words were full of meaning and charmed all ears as he said, Like my ancestors, I have tended this kingdom as a mother cares for her child. I have worked unremittingly for the people. Now my body is old and infirm. I wish therefore to appoint my eldest son as regent, and transfer to him the burden of responsibility. Following the holy custom of my forefathers, I hope to spend the rest of my life in austerities in the forest. Ram is fully equal to the task of kingship. He is expert in administration and statecraft, and he is unequaled in valor. I can transfer this trust of sovereignty to him without any anxiety, and I hope that this honored assembly will permit me to do so. Shouts of joyous acclaim rose from the great assembly, and with one voice the gathered princes and notables exclaimed, So be it! The king spoke again. You agree with my proposal, but give no reason. This will not do. Let the wise man explain why they agree. Then several speakers rose and explained Ram's virtues and fitness to rule. The king's heart was filled with joy to hear these praises. At last, the whole assembly rose and said with one voice, Let there be no delay. Let Ram be anointed regent. The king answered that he was happy and would forthwith carry out their wishes. Then, turning to Vasishta, Vamadeva, and the other holy men and guardians of the sacred rites, he said, "This is the auspicious month of Chaitra, the season when the trees in the forest are covered with flowers. Revered elders, make all preparations for the anointing of Ram." The assembly was glad to hear these prompt orders. As bidden by the king, Sumantra, the minister in charge of the household, went to fetch Ram. Ram, ignorant of all these happenings, came and stood before his father. Hearing of the decision to anoint him regent, he humbly bowed acceptance, saying, "I am in duty bound to carry out your orders, whatever they may be." Dasarath blessed Ram and said, "You are a good prince, beloved of the people. Let not your courtesy and your consideration flag, but increase with your opportunities of doing good, and earn you enduring glory." Then Ram returned to his dwelling. Hardly had Ram returned home when Sumantra called in haste and told him that his father wished to see him. Asked for the reason, Sumantra could not tell. He only knew he had been enjoined to fetch the prince at once. Ram thought, the king must have taken counsel over the coronation ceremony and perhaps met with some difficulty. But whatever happens is for the best. Ram was not eager to assume authority, but looked on it as only a duty to be done. If the king wanted him to take it up, he was ready to do so. But if the king wanted him to give it up, he was equally willing. In this mood, Ram went to his father. The king embraced Ram, seated him beside himself on the throne, and said, "I am old. I have enjoyed my life as a man and a king. I have discharged all my duties to my ancestors. There is nothing left for me to do. My only desire is to install you on the throne of our fathers. Last night I had bad dreams. Those who read the future advise me that a great sorrow, even death, may overtake me very soon. Hence I wish to have the coronation performed tomorrow. Tomorrow, the readers of the stars say, is auspicious. Something within me says, do this at once. You and Sita should prepare for tomorrow's anointment by fasting tonight. Lie down on a bed of darba grass and have trusty and vigilant friends to look after your safety. It seems to me that the present time, when your brother Bharat is away, is particularly opportune for your installation. Not that I do not know that Bharat is the soul of righteousness in thought and conduct alike, and that he is devoted to you, but the minds of men are changeful and open to unexpected influences. And so the king decided that the coronation should be performed on the very next day, and told Vasishta of his decision. Bad dreams added to the reasons for fixing the day for the coronation at once. Taking leave of his father, Ram went to Kausalya's apartment to give her the news and seek her blessing. But the queen had heard the news already. Sumitra, Sita, and Lakshman were all there with Kausalya, who, clad in ceremonial white, sat offering prayers for her son. Ram reported to his mother the king's latest command. She answered, "This I have heard. May you live long. Be a good ruler. Conquer your foes and protect your subjects and relatives. You have pleased your father and you have made me happy." Then, bidding farewell to his mother and stepmother, Ram went to his own apartment. As directed by the king, Vasishta came to Ram's place. He was welcomed by him at the entrance. Vasishta initiated Ram with due mantras or holy prayers in his pre-coronation fast. As Vasishta returned to the king, he saw groups of people on the royal road, cheerfully discussing the great festival of the morrow. Houses were being decorated with flowers, festoons, and flags. It was with difficulty that sage Vasishta could make his way through the crowds to the king's palace. The king was pleased to hear that the fast had begun duly, and all was being readied for the ceremony. But in his heart of hearts, there was a fear that some mishap might come between him and his one wish. The city was in a joyous commotion of expectancy. In every house, in every street, men, women, and children looked on the coronation as a great and auspicious occasion in their own lives, and awaited it with enthusiasm. Ram and Sita, in their dwelling, meditated long on Lord Vishnu, fed with ghee the sacrificial fire, reverently sipped what remained of the ghee, and slept on grass spread on the floor. Early the following morning they were roused from slumber by music, and held themselves in readiness to proceed to the palace, awaiting the summons. But the summons that came was of an entirely opposite nature. In accordance with the practice in royal households, Queen Kaikeyi had a woman companion and confidential servant. She was a hunchback named Manthara. Being a distant relation of the queen, she claimed great intimacy with her. Now, on the day on which Dasarath had summoned the assembly and decided to anoint Ram as regent, Manthara happened to climb up to the terrace of the women's apartments and stood surveying the town below. She saw the streets were sprinkled with water and gaily decorated. Flags flew from the housetops. Wearing new clothes and bright jewels, smeared with sandal paste and decked with flowers, people moved about in crowds, engrossed in happy talk. Musical instruments played in the temples. Manthara could not understand the reason for all this, for she did not know what the king had decided. Some celebration was on, she guessed. Manthara turned to a servant and asked her, "Why are you wearing this silk dress? What is on in the city? Kausalya seems to be distributing gifts to Brahmins. She is a thrifty lady and would not be doing this for nothing. There are festive sights and sounds everywhere. Do you know what this is all about?" The little servant girl answered, dancing with joy, "Why, do you not know that our Ramchandra is going to be anointed regent tomorrow morning?" This was news. Manthara was overpowered with sudden anger. Quickly she hobbled downstairs. Straight away she entered Kaikeyi's room. Kaikeyi was resting on her bed. "Rise, rise, foolish woman. A flood of misfortune is rising to drown and swallow you. You are betrayed and ruined. Your sun is setting. Foolish girl, is this the time to sleep?" Kaikeyi, fearing that some calamity had overtaken Manthara, asked her gently, "What is troubling you? Why are you thus so upset?" And the clever Manthara began, "Destruction has come upon both you and me, my girl. Dasarath has decided to make Ram regent, the real ruler of this land. What greater cause for sorrow need I have? When grief comes to you, how can I remain unconcerned? I have come running to you. You are born and bred in a royal family. You are married into a royal family. Now, alas, all is over. Like the simple woman you are, you have been deceived. Your husband has cheated you with sweet words. It is a deep plot, as anyone can see. He put Bharat out of the way by sending him to the distant place of his uncle, and is taking advantage of his absence by hurriedly crowning Ram. By tomorrow, it will all be over, and you watch this, lying in bed and doing nothing, while you and all who depend on you are being destroyed." And so Manthara went on talking. Kaikeyi's ears heard the words without quite heeding their drift. Like the rest of the royal household, her mind was overwhelmed now with the joyous expectation of Ram's coronation, for she loved and esteemed Ram like everybody else. "Manthara, you have brought me good news," she said. "Is my son Ram to be crowned tomorrow? What greater joy can come to me? Here, take this. Ask me for anything else." So saying, Kaikeyi took the necklace off her neck and gave it to Manthara. It was a royal custom at once to reward with a rich gift the bringer of any important good news. Kaikeyi thought Manthara, like any other officious personal attendant, was ingratiatingly jealous in her mistress's interest. How could this woman understand the goodness of Ram or affairs of state? And so she thought that her foolish fears would be banished if she saw that her mistress was happy at the event. Kaikeyi's mind was still uncorrupted. She had the culture of her noble lineage and was not easily amenable to low thoughts. This but increased Manthara's grief. She flung away the necklace and said, "Woe to you, stupid woman! All is lost, and stupidly you laugh with joy. How can you be blind to the misfortune that is coming to you? Am I to laugh or cry at this folly? Your rival, Ram's mother, has conspired to making him king, and you jump with joy, insane woman. What would be Bharat's state when Ram reigns? Would not Ram fear and ever look upon Bharat as a dangerous enemy? Ram knows human nature. He knows that Bharat alive would be a constant threat to his power and therefore must be killed. Does not one kill a cobra out of fear? Hereafter there is no security for Bharat's life. Tomorrow morning Kausalya will be a happy woman, and you will bend before her as a well-dressed slave. You will stand before her, hands clasped in obedience. From tomorrow your son too will be a subject and a slave. In these apartments there will be no more honor or joy." And she stopped, unable for grief to continue. Kaikeyi heard all this and wondered, why should Manthara have such fears? Does she not know Ram? Is he not virtue personified in human form? So she said, "Manthara, you have not known and rejoiced in Ram's truthfulness, right conduct, and humility. He is the elder prince, thus he gets the kingdom. Bharat will get it one day after him. What is wrong with all this? Why, dear friend, do you feel such grief? After Ram, Bharat will reign for 100 years. Do not cry. You know how affectionate Ram is to me. Indeed, he cares for me more than for his own mother. Does not Ram hold his brothers as dear as life? It is not right that you should fear any harm from Ram." "Alas, alas," said Manthara, "why are you so foolish? Once Ram is crowned king, what chance has Bharat? Do you not know the rule of succession? When Ram ascends the throne, all prospects of royalty for Bharat and his line are at an end. After Ram, Ram's son will be king, and after him the son's son will be king, and so the succession will go on. Eldest son succeeds eldest son. Do you not know this? There is no chance for a younger brother, no matter how good or manly he is. My dear, you know not even this. What is one to do? Once Ram is crowned, he will not leave Bharat alone. There will be danger to Bharat's life. If you want Bharat to live, advise him to remain away, an exile from home. For if he returns, he will be coming back to his death. It would be safest for him to leave even his uncle's house and hide his head in obscurity in some more distant land. And Kausalya is no friend of yours. She bears you a grudge because you are the king's favorite and have often slighted her. And now she is sure to wreak vengeance on you. You know the wrath of a rival wife is a raging fire when it finds its chance. You may take it that if Ram is king, Bharat is as good as dead. Therefore think hard, be firm, decide something and stick to it. Somehow Bharat must be crowned. Ram must be banished from the kingdom. Fear now entered the heart of the queen. Manthara had won. Kaikeyi's face was flushed. Her breath became hot. Helpless, she clung to Manthara for comfort and safety. Because his first two wives had borne no children, Dasarath, following the royal custom, married Kaikeyi. At that time, Kaikeyi's father secured from Dasarath the promise that the child of her womb should become king after Dasarath. In such a promise given by a childless king, there was nothing surprising and nothing wrong. At that time, his then queens had long been childless. The king took a third wife for the sake of progeny, but even then his wish for a son to be born was not fulfilled, and many years passed. After the great sacrifice was performed, all three wives bore children. The son of Queen Kausalya, Ram, was the eldest among the four sons. He was also great in virtue, fully equal to the burden of kingship, acceptable to ministers, citizens, and vassal princes. How could Dasarath violate the royal custom and, ignoring Ram's claim, anoint Bharat? Moreover, neither Bharat nor Kaikeyi had ever thought of or wished for the fulfillment of this old and forgotten promise. During all the intervening years, no word had been spoken on this subject. Hence the king thought there could be no difficulty in installing Ram as regent in accordance with the custom of the dynasty and public expectation. And there was no cloud in Kaikeyi's mind. This is clear from Kaikeyi's behavior, and Bharat was too good and noble to raise a question. Fearing that delay might bring some unpredictable obstacles, Dasarath had ordered the coronation to be done without waiting for Bharat's return to the capital. This same fear and hurry were used by Manthara to persuade Kaikeyi to take the wrong path. Think, my queen, why this haste? Why does your husband rush through the ceremony when your son is absent? Is it not to cheat him of his right? Is not the motive plain? The king pretends to be enamored of you, but this is only his hypocritical shrewdness. Thus tempted, Kaikeyi thought over Manthara's advice. Kaikeyi was weak, like many women. She had good feeling and good culture, besides a keen intellect, but she had little knowledge of the world. She was also terribly obstinate. Easily deceived, she did not have the power to foresee the full consequences of her action. Fearing that delay might bring some unpredictable obstacles, Dasarath had ordered the coronation to be done without waiting for Bharat's return to the capital. This same fear and hurry were used by Manthara to persuade Kaikeyi to take the wrong path. Think, my queen, why this haste? Why does your husband rush through the ceremony when your son is absent? Is it not to cheat him of his right? Is not the motive plain? The king pretends to be enamored of you, but this is only his hypocritical shrewdness. Thus tempted, Kaikeyi thought over Manthara's advice. Kaikeyi was weak, like many women. She had good feeling and good culture, besides a keen intellect, but she had little knowledge of the world. She was also terribly obstinate. Easily deceived, she did not have the power to foresee the full consequences of her action. Kaikeyi, who had looked upon Ram as her own son, was enmeshed in Manthara's arguments and became helpless. "Indeed, I am afraid," she said. "Tell me what we should do. Am I to be a servant to Kausalya? Never. Bharat must be crowned. Yes, you are quite right. And Ram must be sent to the forest. But how shall we get all this done? Tell me. You are clever and know the way." And she clung to Manthara. In Kaikeyi's eyes at that time, Manthara's crooked frame appeared handsome. "This is indeed strange, Kaikeyi," said Manthara. "Is it for me to tell you how this could be brought about? Have you really forgotten? Or are you only pretending? But if you want me to say it, I shall do so. Listen." And then she paused. Kaikeyi, impatient, cried, "Tell me, tell me. Somehow Bharat must be crowned and Ram's coronation must be stopped." "Very well," said Manthara. "I shall tell you. Do not be impatient. You remember how your husband Dasarath long ago fought against Sambara in the south? And you were with him, were you not? Your husband went, did he not, to help Indra? Shambhara of Vaijayanti was too powerful for Indra, who sought Dasarath's help. Did not Dasarath get wounded in battle and lose consciousness? Then you drove his chariot skillfully out of the battlefield, gently removed the arrows from his body, and revived him and saved his life. Have you forgotten all this? And what did he tell you then? He told you in gratitude, 'Ask me for 2 boons. I shall give you anything you want.' Then you answered, 'I shall ask for my boons later. I want nothing now.' Then he promised, did he not? You will have your 2 gifts whenever you want them. You told me all this long ago yourself. You may have forgotten it, but I have not. The time has arrived to get him to redeem his promise. Demand that he should crown Bharat instead of Ram. This will be the first of the 2 gifts he promised. For the second gift, ask that Ram be sent to the forest for 14 years. Do not be frightened. Do not fear to ask. Do not think it sinful to demand this. Do what I tell you. It is only if Ram is sent to the forest that his hold on the people will loosen and disappear in the course of time, and your son's position will be more secure. Go now and lie down in the sulking room. Throw away your fine dress and your jewels. Wear an old sari and stretch yourself on the floor. When the king enters the room, do not speak to him. Do not even look at him. I am sure he cannot endure your sorrow. You will then have your way with him. The king will try to get round you. Do not yield. He will offer many alternatives. Accept none of them. Insist on the 2 boons. You must be firm. Bound by his promise, the king will finally come round. I know how passionately he loves you. He would give up his life for your sake. To please you, he would jump into fire. So do what I tell you. Do not be afraid. Unless Ram is sent to the forest, your wish will not be fulfilled. Ram must be sent away. Only then the position you get for Bharat will be real and lasting. Remember this, and mind you, do not weaken. Listening to this advice, Kaikeyi's face shone with hope. "What a brain you have, Manthara," exclaimed Kaikeyi. "You have been the saving of me." And she jumped about in joy. Manthara repeated again and again that Ram must be sent to the forest. Do not delay. What needs to be done, do at once. Remember what I have told you. Everything depends on your firmness. Victory is yours if you do not yield. Kaikeyi assured Manthara of her firmness, and forthwith entered the sulking room, removed her jewels and scattered them about, changed her clothes and stretched herself on the floor. Then, assuming a broken voice, she said, "Mantra, you yourself will carry the news to my father, and you yourself will tell him one of two things, either that Bharat is to be crowned, or that Kaikeyi is dead." Kaikeyi, in her anger, believed that Dasarath had really been treacherous to her. Even then, stretched on the ground, divesting herself of all ornaments, and putting on a face of grief and anger, she looked inexpressibly beautiful. So great was her beauty. The sinful thought had found lodgment in her mind, and her whole nature was transformed. The fear that she would lead a slave's life, and that even Bharat's life was in peril, had got hold of her. For the first time in her life, she cast aside the sense of shame and sin, and hardened her heart. Heaving heavy sighs, perspiring, and with eyes closed, Kaikeyi, beautiful like a goddess, unbraided her hair, lay on the floor with disheveled tresses, and sprawled about like a bird shot down by a hunter. The flowers and shining jewels which once adorned her person lay scattered in the dark room like stars in the midnight sky. Having dismissed the assembly and given orders for the due celebration of the coronation ceremony, Dasarath, relieved of care and wishing to relax, sought the apartments of his favored consort. He had decided on the coronation of Ram after receiving the approval of all those who had a right to be consulted, and he felt happy and free, as after laying down a heavy burden. He entered Kaikeyi's chamber to tell her the happy news, and spend in pleasant talk the night before the coronation. The junior queen's residence was a beautiful palace, with lovely gardens and tanks, birds playing in the water, peacocks dancing with tails spread out, and trees resplendent with bright flowers. In Dasarath's happy mood, it appeared unusually beautiful that night. Like the full moon rising brightly before an eclipse, without knowing of the eclipse that lies in wait for her, the poor old king entered Kaikeyi's dwelling with a beaming face. The incense pots and drinks were in their usual places, but he did not see the queen, whom he was eager to meet. Of all his consorts, Kaikeyi was the one whose company he sought for joyous relaxation from all cares of state. For she never interfered in public affairs, and always waited for him at the entrance, and welcomed him with a warm embrace. But today, she was nowhere to be found. The king was perplexed. He went round and looked in vain for her in all her favorite haunts, thinking that she was playing a sweet game of hide-and-seek. He did not find her. This sort of thing had never happened before. He asked a maidservant where the queen was. Folding her hands in reverence, the girl said, "Lord, the queen is angry. She is in the inner chamber." The surprised king entered the room, and he saw a sight which amazed and distressed him. For there she lay on the bare floor, with draggled robes and disheveled hair, like one in mortal pain. She seemed too full of anguish even to look at him as he entered. The poor guileless king, all unconscious of having given any cause for offense, behaved with the doting fondness of an old husband, and seating himself by her side on the floor, stroked her hair and strove to console her with loving words and caresses. "What has come over you? Are you ill? Do you feel any pain? Have I not the best doctors in the land? I shall send for them at once. They can cure any malady. Do not be afraid." Kaikeyi sighed heavily, but would not speak. The king proceeded, "Was anyone in the palace guilty of discourteous behavior? Tell me, and I shall punish them. Did anyone slight you, or was there anything you wanted which I neglected to give you? Tell me." In this way he mentioned faults that might have occurred in the running of a big house, and asked her what the matter was, and why she was upset. Kaikeyi paid no attention to his questions, and was mute, like one possessed. The king begged her more insistently. "State your wish, it shall be done. Do you want anyone punished? I shall punish him. Do you want anyone freed from punishment? I shall free him, even if he is a murderer. You know my absolute authority. I can give and I can take as I please. Anywhere to anyone I can do what I wish. Ask me anything and it shall be done at once." Kaikeyi sat up. The king was pleased, and she began. "No one slighted or dishonored me, but there is something which you can do, and you must do it for my sake. Give me your word that you will fulfill my desire. Then I shall tell you what it is." Hearing this, the unsuspecting old man was filled with joy. Possessing absolute powers, he had no doubt that he could fulfill her wishes, whatever they were, and so boldly and joyously he said, "Well, Kaikeyi, tell me your wish. It shall be done. I swear it. I swear it on all I love most, on you, the dearest among women, and on Ram, dearest to me among men. I swear in the name of Ram, whatever you desire I shall do. I promise. I swear." Guileful wickedness and trustful misfortune were reaching the climax in their unequal encounter. The king's swearing in the name of Ram filled Kaikeyi with supreme delight. She was now sure that she had won, for the king would never break a promise coupled with that beloved name. "Do you promise?" "Very well," she exclaimed. "Swear again in the name of Ram that you will do what I wish without fail. Swear it." The king said, "My beloved queen, I promise. I swear it on Ram. Whatever you wish, I shall do. This is my sworn word." At this stage, as she thought of the tremendousness of her intended request, Kaikeyi's heart misgave her, and she feared that on hearing it, her horror-stricken husband would exclaim, "God forbid! No oath or promise is strong enough to justify so heinous a sin," and recoil from her with abhorrence. She stood erect, and with folded hands, turning in the 4 directions, invoked in a solemn voice the heavenly powers to witness and confirm the oath. "O ye gods, you have heard and witnessed the promise given to me by my husband. Sun, moon, and planets, you are my holy witnesses. Ye 5 elements, you have heard the promise. He who has never broken his word, my husband, has sworn to do my wish. Bear witness to this." Dasaratha was looking at her with hungry, joyous eyes. She knew her man, and she began boldly. "Do you remember, King, how when long ago in the field of battle you were about to lose your life, I drove your chariot in the dark night, took you out of the battlefield, removed the arrows from your body, and comforted and revived you? When you came out of your faint, you said something, did you not? You said, 'You have restored to me the life which my foes had taken from me. I shall give you any 2 gifts you ask.' Then I said, 'I want nothing now. It is joy enough now for me that you are alive. I shall ask for my gifts later.' Do you remember this?" The king answered, "Yes, I do remember this. Ask for your 2 gifts. You shall have them now." Kaikeyi said, "Remember, you have made a vow. You have given a pledge. You have sworn in the name of Ram. The gods and the 5 elements have witnessed your promise. I shall state my wishes. Your ancestors never broke their word. Prove yourself their worthy descendant by being true to the word you have given. With the preparations now afoot for the coronation, crown my son Bharat. This is my first wish. The second boon that I demand is, send your son Ram to live in the Dandak forest for 14 years. Remember your solemn vow which you cannot break. The good name of your great dynasty is in your hands." Dasaratha was thunderstruck. When his mind resumed its function, he doubted the reality of what had happened and thought, could it be other than a hideous dream? Or the phantasmagoria of a disordered brain? Or the sudden materialization of the sins of some past birth called up for my chastisement? I am certainly the victim of an illusion. I cannot believe this to be reality. Unable to stand the confused agony of shapeless terrors, he closed his eyes and became unconscious. Opening his eyes a little later, they fell on Kaikeyi, and he trembled like a stag at the sight of a tiger. He sat up on the floor and moaned, swaying helplessly this side and that, like a cobra held by the spell of a potent charm. Again he fainted. After a long interval, he recovered his senses, and with eyes turned to his tormentor, and inflamed with helpless anger, cried out, "O wicked demoness, destroyer of my dynasty! What harm has Ram done to you? Has he not looked upon you as his own mother? I thought you were a woman, but now I see you are a venomous serpent brought from far away and cherished in my bosom only to sting me to death." Kaikeyi was unmoved and spoke not a word. The king went on, "On what pretext can I banish Ram, whom all the people love and praise? I may lose Kausalya and survive. I may lose the pure-minded Sumitra and survive. But if I lose Ram, I cannot live thereafter. Without water, without sunlight, I may live for a while, but never without Ram. Expel from your mind this sinful thought. With my head bowed at your feet, I beg of you, have you not said many a time, 2 dear sons I have, and of them Ram, the elder, is dearer to me? In deciding to crown Ram, what have I done but carry out in action your unspoken wish? Why then do you demand these cruel boons? No, it cannot be really that you mean this. You are only testing me to find out if I indeed love your son Bharat. Do not through a great sin destroy our famous line of kings." Even then Kaikeyi spoke no word, but her eyes blazed scornful anger. The king continued, "Till this day you have done nothing to cause me sorrow, never spoken an unworthy word. Who has corrupted you now? I cannot believe that this evil thought is your own. How often have you told me, my dear, that noble as Bharat is, Ram is nobler still? Is it the same Ram that you now want to be sent to the forest? How can he dwell in the forest? How can you even entertain the thought of his going away into the wilderness, infested by ferocious beasts? How lovingly has Ram treated you and served you? How can you forget all this and harden your heart and utter the words, 'Send him to the forest'? What fault has he committed? Of the hundreds of women in the palace, has anyone ever uttered a word against his honor or virtue? The whole world loves him for his great and good qualities. How did you alone among so many find cause to dislike him? Is not Ram like Indra himself? Is not his face radiant with goodness and spiritual light, like a rishi's, a sage's? The whole world praises his truthfulness and friendliness, his learning and wisdom, his heroism and humility. No one has heard a harsh word from his lips. So how can I, his father, say to him, 'Son, go to the forest'? This can never be. Have mercy on me, an old man nearing the end of his days. Kaikeyi, ask for anything else in this kingdom. Ask for everything else and I will give. With folded hands I beg you, do not send me to my death. Clinging to your feet I beg you humbly, save Ram, save me from sin. To the king thus struggling in a sea of grief, pitiless Kaikeyi spoke cruel words. King, if having promised the boons you regret it, you will now break your word, what sort of king would you be? And what right would you have to speak of truth and virtue? How can you face other kings? Will you shamelessly confess to them, yes, Kaikeyi saved me from death and I gave her a promise. Later I was sorry I gave it and I broke it. What else could you tell them? All monarchs will shun you as a disgrace to their order, and common people will laugh in scorn at their rulers and say, kings break promises even when given to their queens. Do not expect kings to keep their word. Do you not know that Saibya, to redeem the pledge he gave to a bird, cut the very flesh off his bones and gave it away? Have you not heard of a Larka who plucked his eyes out to keep his word? The sea stays within its limits and does not overflow the land because it feels bound by its agreement. Do not violate your solemn pledge. Follow the path of your royal ancestors. Oh, I fear that you, their unworthy descendant, will forsake righteousness. You will crown Ram and you will dally with Kausalya. What do you care what happens to morality? What do you care what happens to truth? If you deny me the gifts you promised on oath, I shall this very night drink poison and end my life. You may anoint and install Ram, but before your eyes, O promise breaker, I shall be dead. This is certain, and I swear it in the name of Bharat. It will be well and good if you fulfill your promise and banish Ram to the forest. Else, I shall end my life. With this firm declaration, Kaikeyi stopped. Dasarath stood speechless, staring at his pitiless wife. Was this lovely creation really Kaikeyi, or a demon? Then, like a huge tree felled by a forester with his axe, the king shook and toppled down, and lay stretched unconscious on the floor in pitiful ruin. Regaining his senses after a while, he spoke in a low voice. Kaikeyi, who has corrupted your mind to see me dead and our race destroyed? What evil spirit has possessed you and makes you dance in this shameless fashion? Do you really think that Bharat will agree to be king after sending Ram to the forest? He never will, and you know it. Can I possibly bear to tell Ram to go to the forest? Will not the kings of the world despise me, saying, this attached old dotard has banished his eldest son, the best of men? Don't you see that they would laugh at me? It is easy enough for you to say, send Ram away to the forest, but can Kausalya or I survive his departure? And have you thought of Janak's daughter? Would it not kill her to hear that Ram is to go away to the Dandak forest? Cheated by your face, I thought you a woman and took you for my wife. Like a deluded man, tempted by the flavor of poisoned wine, I was lured by your beauty into marrying you. Like a deer ensnared by a hunter, I am caught in your net and perish. Like a drunken Brahmin in the streets, I shall be universally despised. What boons have you demanded? Boons that forever will taint the fame of our dynasty with disgrace. If I tell Ram to go to the forest, yes, He will cheerfully obey and go to the forest. Then I, Kausalya, and Sumitra, we will die. How will you enjoy the kingdom thus secured, O sinful, foolish woman? And will Bharat agree to your plans? If he does agree, he shall not perform my funeral ceremonies. O shameless woman, my life's enemy, kill your husband and attain widowhood to enjoy the kingdom with your son. Oh, how sinful are women, and how pitiless. No, no, no. Only this woman is cruel. Why should I insult other women? What a pity that my Bharat should have this monster for a mother. No, I can never do this. Kaikeyi, I fall at your feet and beg you, have some pity on me. The king rolled on the ground and writhed in agony. No matter how humbly he begged, Kaikeyi was obstinate and said firmly, "You have yourself boasted that you are a truth speaker. But now, having sworn before the gods that you have granted a boon, you attempt to retract your promise. If you break your word, I shall surely kill myself, and that will not add greatly to the glory of your dynasty, of which you are so proud." "Very well then," said Drazarath. "Let Ram go to the forest, and let me die. Having destroyed me and my race, a jubilant widow, you will gain your wish and seek joy in your life." Again, after a while, the old king cried, "What good you will gain by sending Ram to the forest I fail to see. The only result will be that the whole world will despise you. After many years of prayer and penance, I obtained Ram by the grace of God, and him I now banish into the forest, I, most wretched of men." Lifting his eyes to the sky, he said, "O night, stay on. When you pass and day dawns, what shall I do? What shall I say to those eager crowds who, full of love for Ram, will be awaiting the coronation festivities? O heavens, stay still for my sake with your stars. No, no, stay not, for then I must keep looking at this sinful woman. Depart at once, O night, so that I may escape this face." Thus delirious and conscious by turns, the poor old man suffered agony, a king who had reigned for 60,000 years. "Pity me, Kaikeyi. Forget the harsh things I uttered in anger. I beg you in the name of the love you bore me. You may take it that I have given the kingdom to you. It is yours, and you can give it with your own hands to Ram and see that the coronation goes through. The royal assembly has decided, and I have announced to the elders and to Ram that his coronation is to take place tomorrow. Let not this announcement become false. Have pity on me. Give the kingdom as your own to Ram. The fame of this magnanimous gift will last as long as the world endures. My wish, the people's wish, the elders' wish, Bhada's wish, they are all that Ram should be crowned. Do this, my love, my life." Again the king clung to the feet of Kaikeyi, but she answered, "Have done with this foolery. See that you do not break your word and drive me to keep mine and kill myself. It is useless for you to try to evade." The king replied, "With due rights and in the presence of fire, I took your hand and called you wife. Here and now I renounce you, and with you the son you bore. Night is gone, the dawn is near, and the morning will see not Ram's coronation, but my funeral. Kaikeyi cut him short. You are prattling vainly. Send at once for Ram. Let him come here. Tell him the kingdom is Bharat's and he should go to the forest. Keep your promise. Do not waste time. Dasarath groaned. Very well. Let me at last set eyes on Ram's face. My death is near. Let Ram come. Let me see his face before I die. Tied down by truth, this old fool is helpless. And again he fell unconscious.